Welcome to A Toast to Truth, where I share the mental, financial, and emotional frustrations of being an entrepreneur. This is Season 5, Episode 3, 13 Reasons Why You Should Watch. Why do we sweep suicide under the rug? Okay, so Netflix has this series called 13 Reasons Why, executive produced by Selena Gomez, and I believe it's her mother. I watched that whole series in probably 2 days, like staying up late, not getting sleep. But this series is necessary because it starts a conversation that's necessary, that's needed, especially in minority communities, especially in entrepreneurial communities. I remember a few years ago, I think it had to be like 2012, 2013, there was an epidemic of founders committing suicide in the entrepreneurial world. And these are people who started companies. Companies, grew, be successful. They felt lonely. They felt detached from life, from people. They didn't feel a sense of community. They felt overwhelmed by the pressure. And so suicide was their way to not be in that state of pain that they felt. Now, mind you, I posted this on my Facebook page. It got heated. Some people didn't agree with my opinion of I think this is a necessary series, and I think Netflix is very brave and made a very wise decision to do this. As an entrepreneur, there's so much stress and pressure that we deal with. And if you do not have the skills to get through this, to deal with it in a healthy manner, the pressure can get to you and then you can make a decision such as this. Now, I've never had suicide thoughts, but I have had thoughts of not wanting to be here, but I've never had suicidal thoughts of that's my escape. My escape was just to buy an island in the Caribbean and live there and no one would ever find me. you know. And I'm not making fun of suicide. I'm not making light of it. It is a heavy, serious situation and conversation. But I need you to understand that we're going to have this conversation in today's episode because it's hurting not only the community, but it's hurting entrepreneurs as well. When you get to the point where that is your decision, you are now not sharing your gifts with the world. You are taking away something that other people could possibly need. You got to the point, though, that you felt no one else was listening, no one else was there, no one else was going to help you, no one else was going to understand. Even though what I do in my business with the Truth Confidant, I work with people who are stressed, frustrated, have anxiety, maybe depression episodes. They just are indecisive. They just want a better them, but they want to better them so that they can have a better business. This particular episode is not something I'm going to have expert knowledge on because I've never had suicide thoughts. I've never had to counsel anyone with suicidal thoughts. I have lost friends to suicide. I didn't understand. You always got to watch out for those strong ones because those strong ones are going to be the ones who, when it happens, you're just going to be in denial because you're like, I did not see it coming. What I liked about 13 Reasons Why is that it showed the subtle ways of how Hannah fell into the thought and then eventually committed the act. I'm not spoiling it because that's what the whole series is about. But this particular episode, I am going to talk about the show. But if you come to the summit, there is a therapist, and I do know therapists. And if you're not comfortable with therapists or you want a therapist to look like you, I do know black women therapists that I can refer you to. Because if you are having these thoughts, because being an entrepreneur or life in general is just overwhelming you, where you feel that this is the answer to the problem that you're facing at this moment in your life, then please reach out to me and I will get you in touch with licensed therapists. If you prefer a black woman, I know several licensed therapists that I can refer you to. I am Facebook friends with several. But I do not want you to think that you are alone in this endeavor. I don't want you to think that no one cares and no one's listening. This month, I'm talking about mental health is not a trend. It's not a trend. I'm invested in the healthy, positive outcome for people. Whether you have a mental illness or not, everyone should be concerned about their mental health. Everyone should be concerned that they have healthy mental health. So if you need to reach out to someone, please reach out to me and I will get you in touch with someone who can help you as you're sorting through the thoughts that are running in your mind. So, with that being said, let me continue with why I think this series is necessary. This was probably one of the most well written shows. To me, it was more like a docu-series, even though they were actors and everything, exposing and shedding light on such a highly sensitive topic, sensitive subject. Netflix really did an awesome job. And I watched after the show. I listened to the psychologists who were the consultants who read over the script. I listened to the producers, to the actors. I didn't feel they needed to justify themselves. I don't think anyone should have to justify themselves why this show is necessary. I'm a former public school teacher, and I know we've all seen the reports of all of these kids committing suicide because of cyberbullying, bullying at school, feeling alone, not having a place to go. Especially the children who are in the LBGT community. I hope I said all the letters right. But people are killing themselves because they feel no one cares. Netflix showed us what it's like when we get to see the subtle nuances that build inside of a person's mind. It's like a snowball. Little by little by little, it grows until it's this big snowball and it crushes you. That those little actions, little behaviors start to build up, and because you didn't deal with those little actions and little behaviors, it's just rolling up, rolling up, rolling up into a bigger ball, and then that pressure crushes you, and you get to the point where suicide is the answer for you. This is not going to be a biblical conversation. I do not need you to message me with biblical scriptures. What I need you to do is not be judgmental, because this is a very sensitive decision that people are faced with. Not everyone, but some people. They do not need your pity. They do not need your judgment or your self righteousness. What they need is someone who's concerned about their overall mental health, who's concerned about helping them get to a positive mental health state. If that's not you, then you need to refer them to someone else. Because if someone comes to you, because it happened in the show, someone comes to you and they're trying to tell you that they have a problem, they may not know how to say it because they don't want to come off as crazy, because that's what we labeled them as. They don't want to come off as whiny or a complainer or a victim. If someone reaches out to you and you have an inkling that they are in a crisis and they need help, I highly suggest that you keep the judgment and the self righteousness and the Bible scriptures, or whatever scriptures you have for your faith, to yourself. They don't need that extra pressure. What they need is to go and have a conversation with a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. What they need is to help them get to a person who's going to help them untangle the thoughts in their mind that would lead to suicide. Now, I stated on Facebook, and some people got mad, that if someone was going to commit suicide, that they were going to do it regardless. I stand by that statement for this reason. When people make up their mind to do something, very rarely can someone else change their mind. If someone has gotten to the point that they are going to commit suicide, they could have already reached out a couple of times to other people, and those people dismissed it. So now they feel this is it. There's no turning back. So I do stand by my statement, because in any decision that we make, when we make a decision, very rarely can someone change the decision that we've already made. And I did not make that as a joke. I did not say it to be hurtful, but I said it as the truth. When you make a decision, very rarely can other people change your mind. If you've already made the decision to commit suicide, I hope that you try to reach out to someone before you got to that decision. And if they miss the signs like they did in the show, I can understand why you got to that point. But if you're listening to this, I am telling you that you can change that decision, but that is up to you. If you change the decision, you're now going to have to go through the journey of working to untangle the thoughts that you have regarding suicide. It's not going to be easy, it's not going to be pretty, but there will be people who will support and encourage you as you go through the process to untangle the thoughts that you have regarding suicide. Like I said, I have lost friends to suicide. I didn't see it coming. It was a shock. It was a pure shock to my system. I was in real mourning, like crying for days, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I just couldn't believe that it had happened. So I do know the outcome of losing a friend to suicide. So that's why I did want to see the show for myself and not read other people's opinions. And that's why I wanted to do this podcast episode, because the friend, they were entrepreneurs. That was the thing. They were entrepreneurs. On the outside, everybody thought they had it together. It was great. And then when you went through and you saw all of the little behaviors, the little nuances, it was one thing after another, and they just couldn't cope anymore. We all have things that happen one after another. Some of us have learned how to deal with those situations so they don't escalate and become something bigger. Many of us have not. And those who have not usually are the ones who get to the point where suicide is a decision that they have made or thinking about. Suicide is a silent killer. Because, like I said, when it happened to my friend, I was in complete shock. It may be a secret killer, but the after is very public, and it just leaves everyone in shock. And the emotions are very hard to process. But we have to learn how to process those emotions if it has happened to someone you know, because you don't want to also fall into that same state of mind. It is a silent killer because people do not feel comfortable sharing their hurts, their pains, their vulnerability, because we live in a very judgmental society, very self righteous society. When people are reaching out because they are hurting, they need help. They don't need you to lecture them about what they should have, could have, would have done. It is especially a silent killer in the minority communities and the entrepreneurial community. I'm not going to talk too much about the minority communities. As I said, I know several psychologists, several therapists. You can read. I can tell you about them. In the show notes, I will link up to some of their sites so that you can get more information, like Melanin Mental Health, No More Martyrs, Therapy for Black Girls. What are some other ones I've I will have a few. That way you can find the one that fits you. But I will share a few for the minority communities. And it's not just for women. Men, if you need help, please reach out to them as well. But I want to talk about it in the entrepreneurial community. Like I stated, there were like a lot of entrepreneurs who were, they were being shared in different types of online websites and magazines that are entrepreneurial based about all these founders who were committing suicide. It is a silent killer because entrepreneurship has this unhealthy type of machismo, uh, and even women can have it, type of attitude of team no sleep, I grind, I do this, I'm working 18, 20 hours a day, I take a nap, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be the best, I'm going to make six figures in 1 month. Like it's always more and more and more, and it's just so much on social media. These attitudes, these behaviors, these added pressures that people are putting on entrepreneurs is what's making some people feel inadequate as an entrepreneur. Is what's making some people feel that they can't live up to this expectation, this image of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship should be defined how you want it to be defined. Ultimately, you got to make money. That's probably the only common thing we need to have when it comes to entrepreneurship. But you need to define how it's going to look to you. And having people put all of this extra pressure, and you're already doubting yourself. I talked about it last week in the episode. Detox the B.S. or stay backed up. If you're dealing with BS in your life, and then you have all this pressure, and life comes at you, this silent killer could be a decision that you make. And I do not want you to make a decision if you can possibly change your life because you have made the decision to do something better with your life. And by better, I mean you made the decision to not allow outside influences to influence the decision that you're going to make about how to handle the pressure and the stress that you are dealing with in your life. Okay, so you're going to take a little break, breathe a little bit, and we're going to take a sip and then we will come back. Are you looking to gain independence? Tired of struggling? Ready to live your life in peace? If so, join us July 17th through the 20th. That's this week, people, for the Detox the B.S. Summit. It's a 4-day phenomenal experience led by myself, two journaling experts, and a therapist. Can't watch live? That's okay. You can still get the replays. Go to gum.co/detox the BS 2017. That's gum.co/detox the BS 2017. And if you still miss it, you can get the replays. Okay, so I came up with 13 reasons why you should actually watch the show for yourself. Now, I do understand this could be a trigger for some people because I do have friends who reached out to me and said that some of the things that they heard or they may have gotten through one or two episodes were just triggers for them. I understand that. So I'm not going to pressure anyone to watch it. But I would say in order for you to make a decision or form an opinion, you have to be able to actually have seen the show and not take other people's words for it. You may not like it, you may like it. You may find that it was educational, you may find that they missed things. Whatever the case may be, you can't make a decision, can't make an opinion on something that you haven't experienced. We do it all the time, but it's not a very educated one. Here are the 13 reasons why you should watch 13 Reasons Why. 1. Today's teens have different pressure. just like entrepreneurs have different pressure. Okay, we're not able to cope with them because we don't have the skills. We don't have the skills because sometimes we don't know who to ask for help, or we don't know where to go for help. Two, unchecked behavior. As entrepreneurs, people have unchecked behavior when they do things to bring someone else's business down on social media by quote unquote, oh, that was shade. She was petty. She dragged her. Like those types of behavior, that's unchecked because someone should tell that person that's not something you should do. Same thing with kids. Subtle jabs, manipulative subtle jabs. These are things that people say and do to get under someone else's skin, but they do it in a way where it's almost like natural, that the other person should just naturally accept it. Four, staying inside of your mind. In the show, this one person who did something horrible, he continued to try to figure out how to stay in her mind without actually putting forth effort. It was the psychology behind it was like it was very good. And I'm not talking about it was a good thing what he did. What I'm talking about the way they showed it really gave some insight. Five, bullying or groupthink. We live in a bully society. We have a bully in chief in the White House. When people gang up on other people, it's hard. It's hard to feel that you can stand your ground and do what you need to do when there's so many people against you. Six, being the new kid. Same with entrepreneurs. If you're the new entrepreneur and everybody seems to have their clique, where do you find that you fit in? Self-doubt is number seven. You just start questioning everything about your existence. Eight, find your tribe. Hannah tried to find groups of people to hang out with. Every time she made an effort, something would happen and she would lose that tribe. Same thing with entrepreneurship. You may have gone from Facebook group to Facebook group, networking group to networking group, and you just can't figure out where is my tribe, where is my tribe, and you kind of give up. Nine, know yourself. Hannah didn't really know herself. Teenagers don't know themselves. But as an adult, we should be able to go and find the people who will show us what we need to do in order to know ourselves and become aware of ourselves. 10. Trust your instincts. Hannah did not listen to her instincts when it came to certain decisions that she made. As an entrepreneur, we talked about this last week. You need to trust your instincts. If there's something that is happening and you're like, this is not, it just doesn't feel right, don't do it. Okay, don't do it. 11. Microaggressions of Hannah, from Hannah. She herself did some things that kind of triggered other people. I'm not saying as the victim we should blame her. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is her actions triggered other actions from other people. When you do certain things, you're going to trigger other people because they have their own triggers. And then that's going to come back, and then you're not going to know what to do or how to handle it. Again, I'm not blaming Hannah for what happened, but her microaggressions did trigger other people's reactions. 12. Triggers. We all have them. Like I said last week, we have to learn what we can do to buffer those triggers from actually causing any type of harm. And then 13. Her journal page was stolen and made public. I advocate for your journal to be a safe and sacred space. When I saw that part in the show, I was so livid at that point because it was like her form of therapy. Therapy is confidential. Therapy is your way of getting help without other people's judgments, without other people's opinions. And when her journal page was stolen, it was just, I, for me, I was like, that was huge. Now, I talked about some other things. I talked about triggers from my friends. Um, I do want to warn you that there are some sexual assault type triggers that may come up for those of you who have experienced that trauma. Um, there's isolation type triggers for those of you who felt like the loner kid in high school. This show, I think, did have some things that could have been done differently. The adults definitely failed her all around. The school failed her all around. But we're not equipped for this in schools. I am a former public school teacher. We didn't even have a counselor at my school. So when those kids went through things, if we as teachers didn't want to mentally deal with their whatever, their situations, then that kid literally was on their own. Even though there was a counselor, and fine Derek Luke, he was the counselor. But even though there was a counselor in the show, there's a lot of high school counselors who are not equipped with certain things. They're just not. And then they're overwhelmed by how many students they have to counsel and take care of. Public schools, the system is failing our children when it comes to their mental and their emotional well-being. As entrepreneurs, you are failing yourself when you do not make your mental and emotional well being a priority. And I'm not talking about drinking wine, watching Scandal. I'm not talking about going to the spa and listening to them talk about you in another language. And I'm not saying anything about them, but I know they be talking about y'all's feet. They be talking about y'all's feet. But as entrepreneurs, we should go out and seek the resources, seek the people who know what it means and know how to do what it takes to keep your mental and emotional well being at the forefront, a priority, and healthy. This show sat with me. It literally sat with me. It was one of those things. I didn't get emotional watching it because again, I've never had suicidal thoughts, but I ached for her. I ached for her parents. I ached for the fact that there was so much that we saw in the show from other people and what they were doing. And I was just like, it's like a simmer, a slow simmer. And then it just starts to get hot really fast. And then it boils over and then it's done. It took, I think, within the realms of the show, about a year and 3 months. What's that, about 15 months for everything to transpire from the time she got to the school and everything happened. And then at the end, I am going to give a spoiler, so you may want to skip over this, but another student did it. And I get what people are saying about if Netflix puts this out, it's going to cause a epidemic of people wanting to commit suicide. I don't think so. What I think it does, it raises the awareness and it helps those of us who are invested in mental health for everyone, in positive, healthy mental states of mind. It raises the awareness for us to look for certain signs, for us to know what to do, for us to be on the lookout to make sure that the people around us, the people that we know, are okay. That the people that we know are given resources, giving recommendations to therapists, that we do what's necessary, what we can do to make sure that we help those who are in need. That's what I saw the show do. In April, I did a whole day where I posted about suicide because it was this couple, this teenage couple, who did like a Romeo Juliet type of suicide. And it just sparked so much on my timeline. But we have to understand the psychology of how people get to that state. We have to understand that it just does not happen overnight. No one just wakes up out of the blue and makes this decision. Things happened over time and they got tired and they did not know what to do. They did not know how to deal. That's where our public school systems are failing our kids because they're not equipping them with ways to be emotionally and mentally healthy. Also, I'm not putting all of this blame on public schools. As parents, you have to be able to see what's going on in your child. I know we have a lot going on, but sometimes when your child comes to you and they just need to talk to you, but they don't know what to say or how to say it, you have to be present. And some parents aren't present for their children. And then you're in a state of shock when something like this happens to your child. But that goes to, again, you yourself are not equipped to know what the signs are, to understand what to do, to be compassionate about the situation. You immediately jump on the defense as if you, the parent, has done something wrong, and your immediate way to protect yourself is to project on your child. As an entrepreneur, when other people are doing things and you're not equipped to handle the pressure, maybe you had this large order, stuff happened, things fell apart, your supplier wasn't able to give you the stuff that you needed to make your product, or you have a service and you overbooked, and all of this stuff can happen. If you're not equipped to deal with that much stress at one time, you can fall apart. And in order for you not to fall apart, you got to have the skills. If you don't have the skills, reach out to the person who does and have them teach you so that you can make sure you buffer yourself against triggers that are going to pull you down into a dark state of mind. We're going to now go to our final toast and we are going to wrap up. Here's what I want to leave you with, my final toast. Suicide is real. It happens. And we need to know what to look for when someone is just not acting like themselves. Because we need to know who we need to support and encourage and give them resources that they need so that they don't make the decision to end their life. If you are someone who has made that decision or thinking about that decision, please reach out to one of the resources I will have on my page. You can go to vernettaRfreeney.com and you can click on the Season 5, Episode 3, 13 Reasons Why You Should Watch. And I will have resources so that you can reach out to people. This is National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. This is Season 5, Episode 3, 13 Reasons Why You Should Watch. This is Vernetta R. Freeney, that's me, bringing you another episode of A Toast to Truth. To catch up on past episodes, go to VernettaRfreeney.com and click Podcast.